Hi, this is Andrew. This is my first of two crime story videos I am doing today. This one is on Florida death row inmate David Livingston Funchess. Of course, you know David Livingston Funchess was who served in the Marines in the Vietnam War, who suffered extreme trauma and didn't get the help he needed, and unfortunately committed a double murder at a Jacksonville lounge. See, David Livingston Funchess was born in 1947 in Jacksonville, Florida. Even though he lived in poverty, he was a law-abiding citizen who caused no trouble. Even though I am extremely for the death penalty, this is one of the few cases where I make an exception to where he shouldn't have been executed. Anyway, after graduating high school, David Livingston Funchess joined the United States Marines and was sent to fight in the Vietnam War. He would be fighting the Viet Cong near the border with Laos. And in the war, he would suffer an extremely traumatic event that would change his life forever. He watched when a Viet Cong mortar had decapitated a fellow Marine buddy of his. He was also exposed to the chemical Agent Orange in the Vietnam War that gave him some neurological damage. And also, he had even stepped on a mine in the Vietnam War. But he was apparently dishonorably discharged from the Marines because twice he had gone AWOL, which got him thrown out of the Marines. And the trauma he endured that affected him was that at his mother's house, he would sometimes stay in the garage of her house for days and would not come out. He would be digging trenches in the backyard due to the PTSD he suffered in Vietnam in the Marines. And he was addicted to heroin until one day he just completely lost it. And as a result, David Livingston Funchess walked into a Jacksonville lounge where he would drink and eventually stabbed two people to death who were 53-year-old Anna Waldrop and 56-year-old Clayton Reagan. And 2 hours later, he fatally stabbed another woman named Bertha McLeod. He was eventually put on trial for the double murders of Anna Waldrop and Clayton Reagan. Now, at that time, PTSD was not a legal defense, so he couldn't use it at his trial. And he was sentenced to death. Now, during his stay on death row in Florida, it became a legal defense, and his lawyers attempted to pursue that, but the court said, no, you should have presented it at his trial, and they rejected his argument, which they shouldn't have. They should have listened to his case because that's what he was suffering from his military service in Vietnam. And it didn't go in his favor. And on April 22nd, 1986, at the age of 39, David Livingston Funchess was put to death in Florida's electric chair at the Florida State Prison in Stark, Florida. His last meal consisted of a cheeseburger, French fries, a malted chocolate milkshake, and coffee. There were many pleas amongst Vietnam veterans and people who knew him asking that his life be spared. And as I say, I extremely support the death penalty, and I would have to agree with them. His case should have been heard, and he should have been allowed to present this. And of course, 7 years later, another similar case would come in Florida of Larry Joe Johnson, who was convicted and sentenced to death for shooting a gas station attendant, James Haddon, during a gas station robbery in Madison County, Florida. And as a result, Governor Lawton Childs granted a clemency hearing for Larry Joe Johnson, but it did not go in his favor. And in 1993, at the age of 49, Larry Joe Johnson, who had also served in Vietnam, was put to death in Florida's electric chair at the age of 49. Well, hope you enjoy this video and let me know what you think. Thanks.